Hi everyone, I'm Kyungmin Lee from Doughnut, based in Yongin, South Korea. And I'm very glad to share my experience of drawing a Doughnut portrait, and I hope that what I share today might be helpful to anyone who wants to begin this journey. To begin with, I want to show you what we've done here. We've done community mapping with Doughnut framework like this. And this is Neutinamu Library Community Portrait of Civic Organization Scale. The first time I encountered Doughnut economics was through the book Doughnut Economics, of course. The book sparked a strong desire in me to do anything related to Doughnut. But at the time, I wasn't sure how or where to begin. Then I discovered the Deal website and learned about the CT portrait tool used in Amsterdam. To understand the tool deeply, I gathered members of Doughnut, and together we began translating the Amsterdam City Portrait document into Korean. The more I learned, the more I realized how effectively the tool could be adapted to local context. It enabled genuine citizen participation and felt like the right tool to help us imagine and draw the good life we want in our city. And that's how we started. And from there, we began reading the Doughnut Portrait tool document and started exploring the community portrait layer. Actually, last year, someone asked me to draw a data portrait using existing indicators. But to be honest, that approach didn't feel real. It felt artificial, as if we were forcing data into a predefined structure. Because of that experience, I decided to go back to the beginning and start again with the community portrait layer. So at first, I wanted to make a portrait for the entire city of Yongin. But Yongin is a large, mixed urban, rural city with a population of 1.1 million, with very diverse districts and local characteristics. So it felt far too big and complex to capture as a single portrait. So I narrowed it down to Sujigu, the district where I live, but even that still felt too broad. Then I discovered the neighborhood portrait created by Civic Scare in UK, and that became a turning point for me. And that's when I realized that what I really wanted to do was to draw a neighborhood level portrait. And at the center of the neighborhood is a place called Neutinamu Library here. And it's a community hub and living platform that connects people and everyday life. And that's where I decided to begin, because it's a place I know deeply and is rooted in my daily life. So I started with the community portrait layer, gathering qualitative data, including stories, opinions, lived experiences, and records of local events and collections. As I listened and collected these narratives, everyday spaces naturally came into view. And each of the spaces carried its own story. And together, they began to form a living portrait of the neighborhood. And one of the most powerful moments came during our discussions on education. Korea is known for having a high level of education, but many people feel really dissatisfied and even harmed by the system. And some students have tragically lost their lives under the pressure of competition. So we ask ourselves, is this really the kind of education we want for our children? So that single question led to hours of meaningful conversation. And I realized that this tool could ignite the same kind of reflection in other areas too. In other dimensions too, like housing, health, and climate. And in the end, we concluded that the purpose of drawing a community portrait and collecting qualitative data is to imagine an ideal portrait of our neighborhood, one that reflects what we truly value and desire. So, from these narratives, I want to draw out shared standards and turn them into indicators, not top-down metrics, but ones rooted in the real lives and voices of our neighbors. So we plan to begin collecting quantitative data based on the insights that emerges from these stories. Ultimately, we hope to include a full database portrait. But For that to be meaningful, the indicators must reflect the qualitative stories. So they should represent how people in our neighborhood are really living, not just what the numbers show. And most importantly, I want these indicators to be encouraging, not discouraging. I mean, they should uplift people, not make them feel like they are failing. So to develop such meaningful indicators, I know I cannot do it alone. So I need collaboration from academia, research institutes, and local government. And that is why during this year's Global Donut Days, I organized a research session to bring together scholars, civil servants, and community organizations to explore this goal collectively. So I've also come to understand how powerful this tool can be as a bottom-up participation process. And that is why I want to include voices that are often unseen or unheard. Like, for example, immigrants, multicultural families, and young people living alone, or those who work like night shifts and cannot visit the library. And I also want to reach out to elder people living alone and others who feel isolated. So to engage them, I've been thinking about connecting with other spaces in everyday spaces. Not only libraries, churches, and schools, but also like woodworking studios, traditional markets, and other places where people naturally gather. So I want to throw Doughnut in those places too. That's how we can reach more people, and that's how we can start weaving the smaller portraits into one shared neighborhood portrait. And one final thing I want to emphasize is how much perception of Doughnut economics has changed in Korea. Like just last year, like hardly anyone had heard of Doughnut economics, but this year, like many people have. And next year, we will hold local elections. So I believe this is the moment because the Doughnut is exactly what our local governments need. So although Korea has a system of local government, real decision-making power remains highly centralized. So that makes it difficult to create policies that truly reflect local realities and needs. So but the Doughnut is a tool that helps us uncover those needs and design better, place-based policies that serve both people and planet. I hope that starting next year, Doughnut economics will become part of a new policy discourse, one that helps regions facing population decline and other crises find a pathway towards shared well-being. And thank you for listening. I hope this portrait journey, like from book to neighborhoods, can offer inspiration for those just beginning their own. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kyungmin. Lots of appreciation for your work. You mentioned uplifting indicators in a time where so many things feel so difficult. Could you give an example of what an uplifting indicator is?
사람을 uplifting 해주는 인디케이터의 예가 뭐가 있냐면 도서관에 와서 얼마나 많은 사람들을 알게 됐는지, 같이 밥을 먹는 사람들은 얼마나 늘어났는지, 내가 아이를 맡길 수 있는 뭐 그런 사람들이 생겼는지, 뭐 그런 인디케이터들 예를 들 수 있을 것 같아요.
The example of the uplifting indicator when people come to the library is for example, how many people can you meet at the library? How many people you can have lunch or dinner together? And how many people you can meet and you might take your kids to them, such as this.
So 인터랙션 하는 그 수가 얼마나 늘어났는지.
How the number of the people you can actually interact is decreased.
Thank you. One of the things that is important in our process of creating our local portraits is coming up with the indicators that really reflect what it means to us to live well. So having the starting point of the social foundation of the Doughnut, but adding to it what you're describing. And in Civic Square, they used imagination as well and play. And so we can have permission to add our own indicators to the process. So I'm personally very interested to see what are the indicators that people can see themselves in. You know, they can experience it day by day, a very relatable indicator. One of the things you mentioned is going to the places where people naturally gather. and having conversations with people who may be isolated otherwise, or be parts of immigrant communities and have specific parts of their community they go to that might not yet be the library. And so I was wondering, when you go to those places, what are the questions that you start with, or what are the conversations that you start with?
저기 보이는 저 툴 있잖아. 저 툴이
Can you see the tool on the wall?
that quick participatory donor tool, that thing. 저게 진짜로 도움이 엄청 돼.
That tool really was helpful
왜냐면 내가 되게 작은 기관에도 갔었고,
because she visited very small organizations.
그냥 천변에도 갔었거든요.
He just walked along the river.
그냥 street, 그냥 random street, 그리고 사람들을 만났는데,
And she randomly met the people.
저 툴 자체가 사람들의 호기심을 불러일으키고 같이 대화할 수 있는 주제를 끌어내는데 진짜 좋은 툴이었다.
That tool itself kind of make people get curious, and she can draw the stories from the people.
예를 들면,
For example,
이 천변이 깨끗한지, 이 강이 깨끗한지라고 했을 때, 초등학교 애들은, 이거 진짜 깨끗하다. 나 어제 여기서도 수영하고 놀았다. 근데 할머니들은, 옛날에는 훨씬 깨끗했다. 이런 식으로 둘이 막 논쟁을 하면서 절대 말을 하지 않을 것 같던 사람들도 이 툴을 이용해서 말을 하게 되는 그런 경험을 했다.
So she shared her experience when she walked by the river, and when she asked the kids, "Do you think the river is clean?" And the kids say, "Yes, it's clean. I even swam yesterday." But there is an old lady. She said, "No, it was cleaner." And they started to debating. So usually there are two groups, never have a chance to discussion, but that tool draw them to have a debate, which is very interesting.
Brilliant, thank you. And we can share that tool in the chat so people know exactly what you're talking about. And it's part of the Doughnut Portrait tool library as well. So thank you for showing that. And I was also watching one of your your events today, which showed the differences between different Doughnut mapped images from place to place. So that's great. We have a question from Michelle in Montana, who asks whether the significant conflicts have been experienced. You've experienced those in this process. Did you gain any particular insights or recommendations on conflict resolution?
conflict resolution 항상 어려운 문제인데,
The conflict resolution is always the hard issue.
근데 저는 그 conflict resolution 하는 과정 자체를 되게 중요하게 생각하고,
But she think it's very important to how to deal the process.
우리 Y 도넛에서도 그 작은 컨플릭트들이 있었다.
Of course, we have small conflicts within our Y Donut.
왜냐면 Doughnut Portraits를 이해하는 그 정도와 희망하는 정도와 Y와 How와 이런 것들이 다 달라서.
Because everybody has a different idea of degree or the results about the Doughnut Portrait, and everybody has a different opinion about why and how we should do it.
그런데 어쨌든 이거를 한번 시작을 하고 이거를 찾아가다 보면 거기서 우리가 원하는 이 좋은 상에 대해서 이야기를 나누고,
However, once we start and keep going on the discussion, and we have a chance to share what we really want,
그 과정에서 서로를 좀 이해하고 기다려주고, 그리고 그러면서 다른 사람들을 만나면서 그 갈등들이 막 억지로 풀려고 하지 않아도 자연스럽게 이 결과와 함께 풀리는 것 같아요.
But in the middle of the process, people understand each other. So we didn't try to solve the conflict intentionally, but we witnessed it resolved naturally.
Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that response, and thank you for translating as well. I really look forward to seeing where your work goes as you weave together these different portraits and how it connects that bottom-up process with the policy making as well. I think there's a really interesting process that's that's unfolding now.
You've got to see our research session as well. Yeah.
Yes, that tonight.
No, we actually finished it. It was almost 7 hours ago.
Okay. If you have a link to it, please do share in the chat. Thank you so much.